Darkness engulfed the steel behemoth as it slipped beneath the waves, a silent predator lurking in the abyss. U-176 was not just another U-boat. It was a harbinger of destruction, a ghost in the Atlantic that struck swiftly and vanished without a trace. Beneath the surface, its crew moved with precision, knowing that a single mistake could spell doom. But in war, even the hunters become the hunted. The vast and unforgiving ocean was both their ally and their enemy, offering concealment, but also the ever-present threat of isolation and death. The German U-boat U-176 was a Type IXC U-boat commissioned for Germany's Kriegsmarine during World War II. U-176 was constructed at Deschimag's shipbuilding yards in Bremen, laid down on February 6, 1941, and launched on September 12, 1941, and formally commissioned under Captain Reiner Dierksen's command on December 15, 1941. As a long-range ocean submarine, U-176 was designed for extended patrols and housed a crew of 48 crewmen. With 6 533mm torpedo tubes, one 105mm SKC 32 deck gun, and a 37mm Flak M42 anti-aircraft weapon, the submarine was one of the powerful tools utilized by Germany in its efforts to break up shipping in the Battle of the Atlantic. Type IXC U-boats were an improvement over the preceding Type IX series, with a long range and increased fuel and torpedo capacities. U-176 could cover 13,850 nautical miles at 10 knots when at sea, a necessity for operations taking it deep into enemy-infested seas. The boat's pressure hull could withstand a 230-meter depth, but exceeding safe operations threatened catastrophic failure. It was a strong but fragile machine, with each dive and surfacing having to be executed with unyielding accuracy. Once commissioned and trained in the Baltic Sea, U-176 experienced its first operational patrol in July 1942. Operating in the Central Atlantic, it attacked merchant ships in an attempt to implement Germany's submarine campaign of unbridled attack at will. Over the following months, U-176 continued to shadow convoys, attacking vulnerable ships plying between North America, South America, and Europe. During its patrols, U-176 sank several merchant ships. Important targets included SS Nikolina, an American merchant, when conveying fuel shipments in North Atlantic seas. The explosion that followed shot thick smoke and flame skywards, a blazing funeral for the submarine's deadly efficiency. Survivors clung to the wreckage, holding out for salvation as the submarine descended into deep for a fourth and a last time. On the 13th of May 1943, a big success saw it torpedo and sink the Cuban SS Mumby off Cuban coastlines. All these raids were part of a big campaign to shatter Allied logistics in the region for Germany, but sinking SS Mumby would mark a beginning to an end for U-176. By then, the U-176 had become a thorn in the flesh for shipping for the Allies. In its career, it sank 11 ships, a total of over 53,000 tons of merchant shipping. Its success marked a reflection of deadly efficiency in the U-boat campaign for Germany, but it marked a reflection of growing peril for submarines in 1943, with countermeasures taken for U-boats by the Allies becoming increasingly sophisticated. Unknown to Dierksen and crew, in 1943, significant anti-submarine capabilities for the Allies had developed. Greater use of technology in sonar, increased use of observation in the air, and coordinated use of convoys for shipping saw U-boats increasingly at peril. In addition, important parts of communications for Enigma code for Germany had been broken, and U-boats could no longer move with such freedom, with U-boat operations becoming increasingly predictable for the first time in years. Shortly after sinking Mumby, U-176 was detected by a Cuban Navy patrol boat, CS-13, that was shadowing a convoy off northeastern Cuba. The patrol boat, under Lieutenant Mario Ramirez Delgado, launched a quick counterattack with depth charges. The little but determined Cuban boat delivered a series of calculated blows, closing off U-boat escape routes one at a time. The attack with depth charges was disastrous, Explosions thudded through the sea, sending shudders through U-176's steel hull. On board, crewmen struggled to regain control, but water deluged in through compromised sections. With collapsing systems and mounting pressure, the submarine plunged to the ocean floor, taking all 53 crewmen with it. It was a defining moment in sea battles, for it marked the first and only successful attack ever mounted by the Cuban Navy on a German U-boat in the war. U-176's loss dramatized the changing tide in the Battle of the Atlantic, for it showed that growing mastery of anti-submarine techniques by the Allies was beginning to pay dividends at the expense of the previously dominant U-boat arm of the Germans. For years, U-176's resting site lay a secret, buried in mystery under Cuban seas. Sea took in submarine and crew, and nothing but scattered documents and testimony of its victims to recount its fate. Not until recent years did deep-sea exploration and historical inquiry begin to shed additional light on its fate. Wrecks were discovered, and it confirmed that it lay undisturbed for years, a rusting grave for its crewmen who in life patrolled deeps of the Atlantic in search of prey. The demise of U-176 was a bitter reminder of the relentless and barbarous reality of submarine warfare. Once an almost impenetrable presence in its campaign in the Atlantic, U-boats in 1943 saw fortunes reverse in its direction for the Kriegsmarine. As German U-boats continued to win battles, fewer and fewer escape routes and refuel stops were in store for them, and increasingly fought with odds firmly in its opponent's hands. The hunter, in short, became hunted. Though the German U-boat campaign in the Atlantic failed in its purpose of breaking Allied lifelines, it was a long and deadly contest that determined the path of the war. U-176's fate is but one part in a grand and epic tale, a reflection of a deadly game of chess played out below waves. With each sinking, each patrol, and each battle, the ever-growing toll of death in a war in which sea and ocean seemed at times to become a sailor's grave rose ever larger. Yet, even in its failure, its legend and its kind lives on, a quiet reminder of a period when ocean-faring monsters roved seas, and danger could spring at any moment out of waves below.